This video is to show you how to create a button on your GUI, a button like this. To create a button, I typically name my variables that are a button prefix them with btn. You typically use these variables later on in your code. Such as my text boxes, I start them with txt, so I know this is a text box. Even with the labels, you can change the text of the labels during runtime based on a user's event. So I typically put the LBL in front of these typically. And I don't typically spell out label. But I name these variables with the prefix so I know what their kind of control they are, or for Python they call them widgets. For a button, I call the button calculate, and then you say tk because I imported the tkinter as tk. So I just have to say tk dot button as opposed to tkinter dot button, capital B. It's going to be placed on the main window, and then what's going to be on the button gets assigned to the text attribute. So text equals calculate, and then now you got to show the button. So you say button calculate, that's the variable name, dot grid, and I'm going to put it on row 2 now. So, and then column 1. So when I run it, it's on row 2. This is row 1, column 2. If I want the button to go over here in the center, I can have it span the 2 columns. I can say column span equals 2. And so now it's kind of centered in the 2 columns, if you will. Now when I click on the button, typically you want it to do something. So it's called binding it. Bind a button. Not sure if I have time to do this. So you're going to create a method. The methods that you create have to be undone at the tippy top. And typically this kind of stuff where you create the GUI and the methods are in 2 different files. But for us, we're just going to do it in one file because we're just learning. So we're going to call this calculate area, and it typically has the event argument. And we're just going to say print calculate area, just so we know that it was invoked. And that's all we're going to do. So now let's bind it. Button calculate dot bind. Oops. And now the event gets it's button dash 1, and then you call your method calculate area with no parentheses, guys, no parentheses, just a reference to that method. Alrighty, so let me see if I did that right. Button press 1, button press 1 with the capital B. There we go. Let's try it. Probably won't work knowing me. Calculate. And it says calculate area. See, that's this text right here. Hit stop. Run it again. Click. And see calculate area in the console. So now you know that it's working and it's going and executing that method. So typically when you bind a button, you typically straight away just print something to the console, make sure it's working. You can also bind the enter button too. Dot bind, and then return, and then so when you hit the enter button, again no parentheses. Let me make sure I'm right on the return. Yes. Area. So now when you hit the return button, so I'm going to tab, and now the button has to focus. I hit enter, and you see it just popped up on my enter. So I'm going to do it again. Tab, it has to focus, hit enter, calculate area popped up. When I click on it, it works too. So that's how you bind it to the button, the typical